Okay, welcome to today's webinar, which is titled Microsoft 365 Enlightenment. It's all around tools you didn't know you had. So let me just jump to the next slide. Rough agenda for today. We're going to be talking about a bunch of different products. Hopefully some of them you won't have heard of, and there are going to be some new things you're going to learn on. And even the topics and products that you might have previously heard of, hopefully I'm going to be able to show you some features and some tools that are inside of them that you might not have seen before. So a little introduction from myself. My name's Dougie Wood. I'm one of the solution architects here at Valto. Predominantly my background has been around document solutions. So anyone who's joined my webinars previously will know that I do a lot of things with kind of SharePoint, but as well as Power Platform as well. So that predominantly is what I kind of use for sort of digital transformation, building mobile kind of applications and digitalizing kind of web forms and things like that. I lead the development team here at Valto, so I get involved in kind of projects from end to end, from the very beginning of kind of gathering requirements and then all the way through kind of delivering them. So that's a bit about me. Today's takeaways. So hopefully what you're going to get is an understanding of Microsoft 365 products that you've not seen before. So typically there's a few products here which people have probably never even heard of before, but you are actually paying for as part of your kind of existing Microsoft 365 licenses. And if not, you will learn some new features about products that you may already be using, say for example like Outlook, that we use all the time for our kind of emails, but there's some certain features in there that you might not necessarily be aware of. So let's jump in. So the first thing is Outlook. So hopefully everybody knows what Outlook is, but essentially Outlook combines all of your email and calendars together in one place. It's available on a mobile app, making it accessing your emails and calendars on the go much more simple. Now, the cool things I like about using the mobile app is that you can actually have multiple email accounts all on the same device, and they don't have to just be Office 365 accounts either. They can be your personal accounts, Google Drives, even shared mailboxes that you can access all from the mobile app as well. So if you're already sort of using Outlook on your desktop devices to access your kind of work email and things like that, you can also get it on your mobile device as well. It's really easy to install. Just go onto the App Store of your chosen device, look for Outlook, and you can install it. You can then, as I say, add in multiple kind of accounts, and that means you can access not only the email, but also the calendars and the people and the groups and things like that, all under one kind of app. You can also layer the calendars as well. So you can kind of see if you've got multiple kind of different accounts, you can layer those calendars to see a view of your day from all of those different kind of calendars. Other things which people aren't necessarily aware of as well inside of Outlook is when you're using things like attachments. So when you're using Microsoft 365, you're probably using things like OneDrive for storing your sort of personal documentation. You're probably using SharePoint and Teams as well for storing kind of documents you're collaborating on. Now, one thing that most people aren't necessarily aware of is that when you go inside of an email, let's just jump into an email in here. When you go to choose to attach a file, you'll see down here you've got this option for browsing web locations, and this will show you recent SharePoint sites and things like that that you've been visiting, but also your own OneDrive. And then when you go into your OneDrive files, let's just quickly just find an example file here. What will happen is a pop-up will appear and it will tell you that you can either attach this document as a true attachment. So this is what basically people will receive a separate copy of the file, and this is the traditional way. So this is like a true attachment. Now the problem with that is that attachment lives inside of that email, so that means it is a duplication. Now this could lead to things like people turning up to the meeting with the wrong version of the document if they were left out of the email thread. Now, what we can do to get around that is with the attached file and browse web locations. If I then jump back into the exact same file, but this time I'm going to select share a link. Now, what this means is that when you send it to people, they'll always see the latest changes of that document, because you're not just sending them a duplicate copy of the document which lives in the email, you're sending them a link to where that document actually lives, which in this case is my OneDrive. Now, when you add that, you can see the difference between the different attachments here. One has got a little cloud over it, which I can see that this means it's a shared link, and the other doesn't. So it's just that is a full kind of duplicate copy that lives inside of the email. Now, once you've actually added this, you can see it says here, by default, is organization can edit, which means anyone inside of my organization, inside of Valto, will be able to edit this particular document. but I can change that as well. So from this drop down here, I can change the permissions to say, actually, anyone can edit this. So when I was saying anyone, that literally means anyone in the world. So they don't have to be an employee of Valto. They don't have to be somebody who's already got access. This link will work to anybody that I send this to in the world. I can also choose if it's the organization. So that means by default, it will only work, that link will work for sort of members of my organization. So that's the difference between a sort of attachments and kind of sharing links. Now, I'll get into the habit of using those shared links because it can save a lot of time. But when you actually sort of get used to working with kind of OneDrive, SharePoint and things like that, you'll start noticing things like the co-authoring, so multiple people can edit the same document at the same time. And that's where then sharing these links can make it really easy that everyone can go to one place. There's a single source of truth of that document, and you know exactly what where you're going to get your latest information from. Now, other things as well inside of Outlook that you might not be aware of is that you can also do things like starting Teams chats. So if you're not familiar with Microsoft Teams, Teams is an instant messaging platform, which is kind of a replacement for Skype for Business, but you can start those chats directly from email. So it might be that there's an email chain or thread which is going backwards and forwards, and you think, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to message that colleague. Now, if you select their name, so for this case, I've already pre-searched for Chris inside of my Outlook, so I can select for Chris here. And we can see a little bit of information about Chris. This is automatically pulling through his information from actually Delve, which we'll talk a little bit about as we go through, which is all this kind of profile information. But I can choose to start a brand new chat with him by clicking on the Start Chat. And this will pop out a Teams box for me, which is directly linked directly to Chris. And I can say, hi, how's it going? And that'll start a brand new chat directly with Chris inside of Microsoft Teams. So a great way of sort of jumping between and sort of integrating between communications from Outlook directly into Microsoft Teams using that option there. Other things that we can do as well, we can also use these flagged emails to create to-do tasks as well. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about to-do later on when we talk about the task management elements, but just remember that we can use these flags later on. The other thing as well, which is pretty cool, is there's a plugin for Outlook, which is called Find Time. Now, Find Time essentially is when you're creating meeting invites and you're wanting to get multiple people in the same place at the same time. You can use the Find Time plugin app into Outlook, which is a Microsoft application, to basically send out these little polls, these little surveys, little questionnaires to people to say, when would you like this meeting to take place? So from inside of your meeting invite, if you click on the new meeting poll, it's going to spin up the little app and it's going to say, okay, well, first off, you need to tell me who it is that we're going to send this to. So I'm going to click on the invite attendees, and then I'm going to put into here who I want to find. So I'm going to say this is going to be for Martin, for example. Now, on the right hand side, it's then going to say, okay, well, what sort of date, times and slots are you looking for? So let's say I'm looking for just a 15-minute slot with Martin, and I'm looking for it on the 15th. I can then see all the times which we are either available or non-available, and if by looks things we're pretty much booked up then. So what I can do is I can even untick the work hours and then find times, maybe there's a bit of time before hours. So maybe if I could say at 5:15 p.m. or something like that, we'll both be available together. Now you can actually select multiple time slots. So I could suggest maybe 5 o'clock, 5:30 p.m. at 5:45. So I've got 4 different slots now potentially available I can suggest to Martin. When I click on next, that's then going to generate me an email. There we go. So I can then say what the location is. So if there's a particular location, I could specify what that is, whether it's a Teams meeting or not. Now by selecting that, it would automatically generate a Teams link for me. And then from here, I can say, okay, well, I'm going to add this all into my email. So this is now generated my email that I can send to Martin. And when he gets this, he'll be able to click on this and he'll be able to vote for his chosen option. So when he clicks on that link, what will happen is it'll automatically open up inside of a web browser, and it will show like a little kind of survey to say when he would like to say the meeting. So he can say, yes, I could do 5:15. Yes, I could do 5:30. No, I can't do 5:45, but my preferred option would be 5 p.m. And then you can choose to vote on that, and that will then collect all that information back. The really cool thing as well about this is you can have multiple people inside of this, so it will take into consideration multiple people and multiple people's calendars. And also it will put in placeholders as well. So whilst they can find those time slots, it will actually put those placeholders in until the decision is made when the actual meeting is going to take place. So this is really useful when you're trying to find time, pardon the pun, with multiple people and you're trying to get them all under inside of one meeting. Okay. So let's just go back to presentation. So that's Outlook. So hopefully some new things there that you might not have seen with Outlook before. The next thing is OneDrive. Now, again, typically you might already got started using OneDrive, but if you're not familiar with OneDrive, it's a personal cloud storage tool. It allows you to access and edit and share your files and images on all devices wherever you are. So it's really useful. I advocate people using OneDrive where possible to reduce the amount of storage space that's required on things like SharePoint and Teams for your personal sort of documents. So there's like drafts and imagery and things like that you're using that maybe not necessarily everyone needs to be accessing because it's just part of what you're doing as a part of your day-to-day role. Use OneDrive because you can have up to 1 terabyte. That's a lot of storage space, 1 terabyte of storage space per employee. You can store in there your files, your images and folders, and it's all backed up and protected from being sort of lost. You can also sync this down locally to your kind of computer, so you can access it offline and treat it just like it's kind of like a file sort of share. Now, one thing which people aren't necessarily aware of with OneDrive is that there is a mobile app. Now, you can install the mobile app again on your personal kind of devices, and the cool thing about it is there is actually a scanning functionality built directly into it. So this is what the OneDrive app looks like. So I'm just going to give you a little walk through what this can do. So when you're inside of the OneDrive app, you can see all of your files by clicking on the Files tab. You can see all the different files you've got available to you. And you can see the Shared tab, which is really useful because you can see any documents that have previously been shared out to people. Now, one thing that I think is really useful is that you can use this scanning option. So by using a scanning option, the first thing it'll do is ask to say, create a folder. So I'm actually going to create a folder here where I'm going to store all my scans. Now, when I'm talking about scans, what I'm talking about is that we're going to be scanning in kind of paper documents. In this case, it's instructions or guides about something, and then storing that directly inside of OneDrive. So it might be that you've got a bunch of different kind of pieces of paper or old forms or things like that, which you need to be able to digitally store. And you can use the OneDrive app to scan those and automatically save them into OneDrive. So I've created a folder here called Instructions and Guides, which I'm going to save all of my scans into. So then once I'm inside of my folder, I can then choose to create a new scan. So by clicking the plus button across the top again, I can click on the scan button, and that's then going to open up the camera on my phone. Now, there's a few different options when it comes to scanning. By default, you've got document. We've also got the ability for a whiteboard if you wanted to scan like a whiteboard during a meeting, or a business card that somebody maybe has given you, or if it's just a photo. So if you're just taking a photo of something that you wanted to then store online. So what this will do is there's some AI automatically built into this, which is going to automatically start detecting the edges of the paper that you're scanning. And then you can choose to sort of take a picture of that, and it'll automatically choose to crop the image around where the document is. Now you can drag and drop and sort of crop this image in as well if you like to. Also, you can build up a larger kind of PDF of multiple scans. So in this case, actually, it's both sided, this piece of paper. So I'm choosing now to add another scan on top of this. I'm going to flip the piece of paper over, and then I'm going to go back to my scan, hover over it, and I'm now going to scan the back of this picture as well. So now I've scanned this in, and I've now got two that I can see here flick between two different scans, which is all going to go into the same PDF. Now you can always choose to crop it anytime. So I've noticed here across the top, there's a little bit of kind of like the table that's in the background. So I'm just going to crop that down a little bit and just remove some of the kind of the table that's in the background, just so I've got a nice, clean, crisp document. Now, once I'm happy with that, I can choose to save it and I can give it a name. So in this case, this is one of my kind of Bosch machine instruction manuals. So I'm just going to call this my Bosch instructions, if I can spell instructions. Third time's the charm. There we go. Now, when I save that, that's then saving that into my OneDrive. A quick refresh, there we go. We can see our PDF. Now, when we open up the PDF, it's going to show us multiple pages, so both scans. And within here, you can then draw on it. You can annotate. You can highlight by using this pencil button across the top. You can add in text, but I'm just going to choose here that I'm just going to select the highlight, and then I can circle and highlight a particular area of the document. So that's really useful, and getting sort of paper forms and old things like that digitally sort of backed up. So that was OneDrive. So hopefully there's some bits in there that you weren't aware of. Next, we're going to be talking about OneNote. So what is OneNote? Now, this is something that I tend to find that not everybody is kind of aware of or has previously used. OneNote is part of the Office suite. So just like Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, things like that, OneNote is one of those files. Now, OneNote itself acts as a digital notebook. It's available as an app, so you can get it on your desktop computer, but you can also get it on your tablets, mobile phones, and things like that. And you can access all your kind of notes that you need to take for your kind of meetings and things like that. And generally, it's for organizing your digital kind of notes into kind of sections and pages and things like that. So I'm just going to jump into an example of what I've got now. What I use is OneNote for kind of all my kind of meetings and things like that that I take part in for my customers. So OneNote actually works on the basis that you have what they call notebook files. So one notebook file is essentially like having one Excel document or one PowerPoint document or one Word document. So it's just this one I have here, customers, is just one file. Now that can be stored inside of OneDrive, it can be stored inside of SharePoint, it can be stored inside of Teams. Now, inside of that, that's then broken down into multiple sections. So for example, here I've got a section per customer that I work with. Now you can color code them. I haven't particularly bothered color coding these, but you can color code them if it means something to you. Then inside of the section, you can have multiple pages. Now within here, you can see I've broken this down. So I've got sort of like my sort of meetings, sort of notes from sort of meetings I've taken. Any kind of training, so any like training agendas and things like that that I'm sort of putting together, and any sort of research and things like that that I'm putting together, part of a potential customer project. Now you can break this out into multiple different ways, and as you can see here, we can have pages which sit underneath sub pages. It's really easy to do. So you can create a brand new page, and by right click on it, you can choose to say promote it or make it a kind of a sub page. So if I can say here, for example, catch up meetings, and then when you add a page, you can choose to make a sub page, and then we can say this is meeting. Now, once you've created your page, you can choose to sort of insert quite a lot of different things. So by default, you can just type in text, but there's other things we can add in as well. So we can choose to add in things like to-do items. So we can sort of say task 1, task 2, task 3, and you can choose to sort of tick them off and mark them off as like a checklist as well. So as part of a meeting, that can be quite useful to put in. So mark something as if it's important. So this is an important message. As I say, tasks and things like that. Typical things from Word as well. You can sort of change the font, styling, underlines, bullet points, numbered lists and things like that. But you can also choose to use the dictate button. Now, this is pretty cool, and I'm not going to demonstrate this now just in case it cuts off my audio for this demonstration. But what this will do is it's voice to text, so you can talk to it and it'll automatically start writing out what it is that you're talking about. And this is a really useful feature if you're wanting to sort of create like a large article or something like that. Also, we can choose to insert tables, files, pictures, online videos, and links. But one thing I think is really interesting is this meeting details button. Because when you click on that, what that'll do is it'll automatically pull through all of your different meeting requests from your Outlook calendar. And then when you choose to select one, so let's just say, for example, let's look at a different day, and let's select this one, for example. Now, I've picked this one because I know there's plenty of participants which are inside of here. Now, what this will do is it'll bring through the meeting details. So it'll show the invitation message, so we can expand that out and we can see what the message is. We can see the link. If it's a Microsoft Teams meeting, it will include the link to the meeting in here. It will bring through the date and time, as well as the participants as well. So we can see all the people who are going to be inside of that meeting at a point in time. And then we can take all of our notes and things like that directly inside of here. But it's a great way of putting a header across the top. So if you are using this for your sort of meeting minutes, it's great to put those across the top. Now, again, other things that we can add in inside the insert tab. Oh, let's just click on that again. So typical things like stickers and symbols and things like that. But another really useful one is this researcher tab. So if you're sort of maybe coming up with ideas, you're having a bit of a creative meeting, you're trying to think through sort of and researching different topics and things like that. As a, for example, we wanted to know a little bit more about OneNote, you can search for a topic and find relevant topics from around the internet, and then you can choose to add those directly onto your page. So you've got snippets of information with useful kind of hyperlinks which go directly into here. So we'll call this Microsoft. Just call this OneNote. Okay. So the researcher tab will allow you to pull out information and put it directly into here. But I was saying, you can insert all sorts of different things in here, tables if you wanted to of information, files, attachments, audio recordings and things like that, or voice snippets. You can also draw as well, so you can choose to sort of draw directly on the page. So you can use sort of like a pen and things like that to draw on the page. And also you can use this, let's just select this, ink to shape. So you can draw different kind of things inside of here, annotate, use kind of like icons and things like that to create sort of shapes. So if you want to sort of like build out a bit of a kind of flow chart or something like that using different kind of shapes, you can do that all directly inside of the same notebook. In the View tab, you can choose if you want to break out your OneNote into multiple kind of windows. So you can actually have multiple OneNotes open if you wanted to be on 2 different pages at the same time. Different kind of options in here as well. So where is it? We've got replay. Now, this is quite useful if you ever wanted to replay a meeting to kind of see how those notes kind of got in place. You could choose to replay this to see exactly how that page was put together. So let's say, for example, if you put together a page and you remove some of the sort of content halfway through the meeting, you can go back and actually see how did you get to the end? How was that page of content formulated using that replay button? Okay. So just to summarize, OneNote then is a file, Notebook is a file, and inside there it's got multiple sections, and you can have within reason as many different sections you like. And then within a section, you've got multiple different pages, and really it's used for kind of taking meeting minutes and things like that. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is Power Automate. So what is Power Automate? Now, again, this is one of these kind of more advanced products that people don't necessarily use as part of Microsoft 365. So Power Automate essentially allows you to build automated processes with workflows, essentially. And this allows you to sort of have repetitive and sort of mundane tasks become automated. Now, things like having reminders, chasers, approval systems, things like that, they can automatically be automated using Power Automate. So let's just jump into a quick example of that. So essentially, Power Automate it is a workflow engine. As I was saying, it's kind of got a sort of a user interface a bit like this. Now, this is a very basic example of a Power Automate workflow. Now, what this is doing is it's going to be sending an approval email when a new item is added. Now, what we're doing is this is based on a Sharepoint trigger. Now, inside of Power Automate, there is essentially, like with anything in life, a start and a middle and an end. Now, the start is what we call the trigger. So there always has to be something which triggers your workflow. Now, that can be anything from a new item being created in SharePoint, like a new document being added. It could be something being deleted in SharePoint. But it could also be something like a new email that's arrived, or Power Automate actually integrates with loads of other kind of third-party products. It's not just Microsoft 365 products. So things like HubSpot, Salesforce, Jira, all these other kind of third-party CRM or task management tools, most of them have integrations directly with Power Automate. So you could use, for example, in Salesforce, maybe adding a new contact is the triggering point for Power Automate to kick in and starts to process. Maybe it automatically creates a folder inside of Sharepoint for that contact, automatically sends them an email to say welcome and thank you for being our customer or something like that. So there's always a triggering point, and it can also be scheduled as well. It could be run this workflow every day, every hour, every month, every year or something like that. It can be on a scheduled basis. But essentially, it has to have a triggering point. Then it goes through and the workflow goes from top to bottom. Now, the workflows are then based around having conditions and actions. Now, actions is going away and doing something. So in this scenario, for example, we're having an email sent with an approval. So when an item's added into SharePoint, it's going to go in and get approval from somebody. Now, once it's got approval, it's then going to say, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through to this condition. Now, the condition basically is the response is equal to approved. Now, a condition is always like a if this, then that. So it's kind of like saying, if this is equal to something, that's the true value. And if it's not, then it's the no and it's the false value. And it basically then branches out your kind of logic. So in this scenario, we're saying we're triggering it based on a new item in SharePoint. Then it goes through for an approval. Then it goes through based on the approvals. The approvals either is being approved or it's being rejected. And then it goes through to a condition which says, okay, based on our response, if it's approved, then send them an email and say it's been approved. If not, maybe you wanted to create an email. So we'll just copy that across into the clipboard and we'll say this is our rejection. So we'll say this is rejected. Now, don't worry too much about these other kind of labely bits that are inside of the emails. Those are basically dynamic content which is being pulled. So you can pull out content from things like the item that you create inside of SharePoint. So maybe it's got the title of the document inside of it. But essentially, that's how Power Automate works from kind of start to bottom. Other things to know about kind of Power Automate, though, is that things like your workflows can only exist for up to 30 days. So you've got to plan around your workflows. If you've got like an approval process which you think is going to last for longer than 30 days, you need to kind of think and plan around that. So maybe you map out your full kind of workflow, and maybe it sends out kind of like a first step kind of approval, but actually it would then kind of stop and wait for like a status of an item inside of SharePoint or something like that to change to something else before it then continues on. So you need to kind of take some of these bits and bobs into consideration. Power Automate, if you're looking at getting started with Power Automate, I would suggest you take a little look at the templates inside of here. And there's all sorts of different things that you can have a little play around with inside of here. And basically the templates are workflows that other people have already built and got working, and then they've submitted it into this template store. Microsoft approved it, and then it showed up inside this template. So there's hundreds, if not thousands, of different templates that you can use inside of here. So you can actually search for it based on kind of third-party things as well. So say, for example, if I wanted to look for integrations with Twitter, I can just search for Twitter and then find all the places where it's saying, okay, send an email for any new tweets that have found a certain keyword, for example. Or if I'm looking for things for Salesforce, I can search for them and find all the kind of workflows which are already built with Salesforce. So I would use that as a kind of a starting point, a sort of a block to get you kind of going and see how other people have built things, and then you can build on top of that yourself. So that's Power Automate. So Powerapps, though. So Powerapps is essentially another element of the overall Power Platform. So if you're not familiar with the term Power Platform, that's essentially a collection of Microsoft technologies, and Powerapps, Power Automate, and Power BI all form that kind of Power Platform. So what is Powerapps? So Powerapps allows you to create mobile applications and workflows and custom forms in order to kind of streamline your processes. You can access them on desktops, mobiles, tablets, things like that, to kind of build out those kind of processes. So what Powerapps allows you to do is connect sort of your business data and pull that through. Now, mobile apps are typically something that takes a long time to kind of build from a traditional standpoint, whereas with Powerapps, you can put together something very quickly because it's all based on low code, which means then it's kind of using almost like Excel-based formula to do its calculations. And there's a lot of drag and drop kind of interfaces, which means you can build something that looks really nice, like an application like here for inspections, by pulling out all that kind of information, which might live in different locations, SharePoint, SQL, places like that, and then allows you to surface that in a nice mobile-friendly application. So I've got a couple of different examples that I can show you of kind of mobile Powerapps. So the first one is actually an application that we've recently developed for one of our customers called Capacity. Now, what this Powerapp is doing is it's actually a rewards app that they've built into Microsoft Teams. So essentially what this is they will create a list of kind of activities or sort of tasks or additional things that they want their staff to be doing, which they can then, their employees can complete and then redeem points based on when they've completed those additional tasks. Now, this was predominantly around kind of personal development, training and certification. So they had tasks which were kind of related to things like having personal development, attending training sessions, running internal workshops and things like that. So once they've actually completed one of these tasks, what they'll then do is come into this app and they will enter which sort of task type that they've delivered. So maybe they've delivered an internal workshop, for example, and then they'll select one of these tasks. Now, all of these tasks are completely configurable by the administrators as well, by this admin tool that I'll show you in a second. So when you go through the admin tool, you'll be able to see that this is where all the approvals come from. So you've got other things like as well, like updating the activities. So within here, this is where you can then say, okay, well, these are all the different activities that we will reward our employees for. So gaining additional kind of accreditations and qualifications, and that will then score you 50 points if you were to submit that. Also, you can update rewards. So what, well, points mean prizes basically. So what are the rewards? So there might be things like gift vouchers, half a day off, full days off, cinema tickets, things like that. And then also all the approvals will come through and need to be approved by the admins of this process. So this is where it will come through and you can choose to either approve or reject. So once an employee has actually completed their activity, what will then happen is they'll come through into here and say what activity that they've completed, and they can put in the title of the activity and any comments as well. And then when they click it submit, that'll then go through to the admin for approval. Once it's actually approved, their points will then be added up onto their scoreboard across the top right hand corner, and they can then choose to redeem those rewards using those points. So they could select, for example, if they had 20 points, the £5 free lunch. They click on the redeem button, and again, that will automatically then send an email to the admins of this system to say that Joe Bloggs has submitted that he would like the £5 gift voucher. Once they've approved that, it would then deduct his points from the progress board, and he would then receive an email to say, here's your gift voucher. There's also a little leaderboard across the bottom, so that encourages some friendly competition, so people can see what others sort of who's the high scoring points and things like that. Also, all of the data is safely secured inside of Microsoft SharePoint, so that could easily be exported directly out into Excel if you then wanted to do some analysis based on who scored the most amount of points and things like that, for example. Some other examples of Powerapps I'll quickly flick through. So we've also got things like leave request systems. So typically in an organization, you might have a leave request where you can track different types of leave and things like that. So from this homepage, you can see all the different types of requests that I've previously submitted, and I can go back and actually select them and cancel them, for example, if I wasn't going to be taking that holiday anymore. I can filter them by if they've been pending or if they're approved or if they're cancelled. And I can also see them by category as well. So you can also put in here different types of category of leave. So we've got holidays, working from home, sickness, and things like that. I can then choose to create new requests by clicking the button across the top. And this then says, okay, well, what type of leave is it? If I select holiday, for example, it will then show me my holiday balance. And as I'm choosing to book holiday, it will know how many days I'm selecting and then choose to deduct those and show me my new balance. I can also choose whether it's a full day, half day, and once I put in some details and click submit request, that will then submit my request to my line manager. So in the background of this, it knows exactly who my leave approver is, and by going to this page, I can see their profile picture, email address, and contacts and things like that. I can also see how many available days I've got left, how many days I've taken, any sick days, and so forth. I can also see company holidays, so any days which we are kind of treating as a kind of company shutdown and public bank holidays. I can see my employees, so the people I'm actually approving leave requests for, and I can see their requests as well. There's a little about section as well, which just says these are the different types of leave. But this is all driven by Powerapps, and all of the data, again, is stored inside of Sharepoint, so that it's nice and secure, and I can go in and do reporting on that afterwards. Other things that we can do as well. So there's a little, this is a proof of concept app for sort of doing inspections. So if it was a guided process that you wanted somebody to go in and kind of follow a set process, maybe this is via a tablet that they're walking around doing an inspection of a lorry, and they can say, okay, well, I'm going to do some inspections of the brakes. And then we've got some subtasks to say, okay, I've serviced the brakes, the parking brake's fine. Here's a little bit more detail about the kind of the check that I'm completing. Another type of popular app is a Teams request form. So when you're getting started using Microsoft Teams, Teams could easily become a bit of a runaway train where you end up with loads of different kind of teams of people are creating their own kind of teams, and you can end up with duplicates. So, for example, I've seen it where organizations have a duplicate teams where they have one that's called like human resources team and one that's called HR team, and then they're wondering why neither of them are seeing each other's kind of documents and things like that. So to control that, you can have this submission of a request to a Microsoft team via this Power App, and that provides some governance and control so that actually you don't end up with duplicates and actually somebody's reviewing and approving this. So the way this would work is you would put in a team name in here. So let's say, for example, I wanted to create, say, a new team for a project. So I can say Project X, and it's going to be a private team. And I'm going to say the owner is going to be me. So I can select myself from this drop down, and the members of it is going to be Chris. And it's just going to be us for now. And the purpose of it is to work on Project X together. Now, I can then click on the submit button, which is then going to submit that request. It's going to go through then to the, say, IT team, or it could be anyone you would like to approve those requests or keep track of that request. And then they can either approve or reject that option. If they approve it, it will automatically then go and create that team. So that just takes the sort of administration out of managing the creation of the teams, because quite often it can be a bit of a stress for the IT department to have to look after always creating the teams. So this actually puts it in the hands of somebody else who doesn't have to go in and technically have access to create the teams, but they can just keep in charge of the governance and control to make sure that you don't end up with a lot of different duplications of teams. And then the final app that I've just got here, which is again quite a popular one, is our employee directory app. And within here, this essentially allows you to search and look up people based on their department, and you can pull through their kind of their profile picture, their job title, phone, mobile phone numbers, and things like that. And we can search based on their name, department, job titles, country. So say if I'm looking for the cloud development lead, and then that's then going to pull up my profile and information there. So that is Powerapps. So as I say, Powerapps is about mobile interfaces and sort of data kind of submission. The next thing to talk about is Delve. Now, again, this is something that most people aren't using, and Delve essentially is your own profile page inside of Microsoft 365. So Microsoft Delve can be used to manage your Microsoft 365 profile for doing things like uploading your kind of profile pictures and things like that. It saves you time by proactively servicing content from all over Office 365 apps into a single app. So this will allow you to kind of see content which is kind of going on around you. So you can tailor your kind of content and insights specifically to you. It reduces the need to sort of move between different kind of apps, and you can keep track of all the documents and your favorites and things like that all on one board. So I'm just going to jump into showing you a bit of an example of that. So this is my Delve page. So everybody inside of your Microsoft 365 sort of tenant will have their own Delve page. Whoops, I need to re-sign in here. And within here, I can see profile pictures, job titles, email address. I can start a brand new conversation, got phone numbers and things like that. I can see a rough availability as well, so I can see where I'm kind of in meetings and things like that. It won't show the full details to everybody, but they'll be able to see if I'm kind of in a meeting or not. I can also see my organization, so a bit of a structured chart as well, so I can see who reports into me and who I report into. On the right hand side, I can see some files. Now, the thing to remember about Microsoft 365 is you're only ever going to be presented with files when you have access to them. It's never going to surface something to you on Delve to say, oh, here, have a look at the managing director's kind of personal kind of folders or anything like that. It's only ever going to show you things that you would be able to access via SharePoint or Teams via normal kind of traditional folder structure. But it will just surface things. So say, for example, if I jump onto Chris's page, I can see the sort of files and things that he's been working on in a shared space. So I only see these because they're stored inside the customers team that we both are working on at that point in time. I can also see people that I'm working on around me, and also any files as well that are in a shared kind of space. So people working on files that maybe I've previously been working on as well. We can update our profile by clicking on the update profile button. And we can change our picture by clicking on the upload profile picture here. You can even change the background photo as well. So if there was a background picture that you wanted, you can change that as well. So let's just look for a nice little nature one. Some nice trees there. And you can update some of your kind of information, a bit of about me section, which can be quite useful and pulls in to different areas when people are searching for you. You can put in your skills and experience. So again, these tags can be really useful for kind of searching for people that might have some experience with SharePoint. And then any interests and hobbies and things like that that you might want to, again, you can add in your kind of interests and skills inside of here. So that is Delve. So to summarize, it's your kind of profile page. It's where you can update kind of information and kind of see what's kind of going on around the organization in one page. The next thing is Microsoft Forms. So what are forms? So forms allows you to collect the data needed in order to run and grow your business. They can be used for anything from customer satisfactions to employee feedback. So the cool thing about Microsoft Forms is that it's not just about creating forms internally, so things like employee feedbacks and surveys and things like that. It's also about you can externally share these forms. So you can send them out to sort of for like customer satisfaction, project feedbacks, training feedbacks, and things like that. Now, the benefits of using Microsoft Forms, say, over something like Powerapps, is that forms are really quick and easy to put together. Literally within seconds, you can put together a new form. You can brand them up and include your own logos and things like that. But the downsides of them is that they are a bit basic. So although you can do certain things, you can't do nowhere near as advanced kind of logic and things like that that you can do inside of Powerapps, for example. You can do things like branching logic. So, for example, if somebody, say you sent out a customer satisfaction feedback form to your customers, say, for example, there was a question which says, how would you rate us, so really good or really bad? If they said really good, it might branch you to a page that says, thank you for saying that we're really good. We appreciate the feedback. Please give us a little quote here that we might use for our website, for example. Or if it says really bad, you could say, oh, really sorry to hear that. Could you give us some more detail about why you've had a bad experience with us, for example? Also, as I said, they're all externally shareable, so you can share these to people. They don't have to have Microsoft 365. You don't need to pay anything additional. It's all part of the kind of the licenses that you're already paying for. There's real-time charts, so you can automatically see when sort of KPI charts and things like that, and it's accessible from any device via kind of like a browser. Also, as a side note on this, I'm going to be doing a sort of a short webinar in a month or two's time dedicated to Microsoft Forms and showing you how you can build your own Microsoft Forms like a customer satisfaction form that you can then send out, and then build an automated workflow from that to automatically email you with the results as those forms are being submitted. So there's a little sort of demonstration of this. This is what Microsoft Forms looks like. It's really easy to create a brand new form. And then once you've created your form, say, for example, we've got this training feedback form. This is what it looks like, and we can kind of see what all our kind of fields are. There's different types of fields you can enter into here, and drop downs and multiple selections and ratings and things like that. You can theme it up and change this kind of look and feel and add your own kind of colors and background imagery and things like that. And you can preview what it looks like on both a computer and on a mobile phone as well. Once you've kind of got those responses, though, you can see all the different responses in here, how many different types of responses you've got, and you can choose to sort of see them as like different kind of charts and things like that. As well as that, you can also choose to open Excel, so you can export that data directly into an Excel file, and then you can choose to kind of do any kind of analysis or making additional kind of filters and charts based on that data once it's in Excel. So that's Microsoft Forms. So the next thing I want to talk about is Stream. Now, Microsoft Stream enables you to deliver live and on-demand events with Microsoft 365, as well as Stream makes educating, connecting with various audiences simple using kind of video. So what that essentially boils down to is that Stream is like an internal YouTube, basically. So you can create your own kind of channels and things like that of different kind of content, and then share them internally with kind of staff. So you can sort of maybe create sort of training videos, new starter channels, so videos for new starters to sort of watch and things like that. And you can also integrate it with Microsoft Forms, so you can have videos which maybe are kind of training videos, which you can then integrate with Microsoft Forms for actually quizzing your staff to sort of see if they understood those videos. So I'll show you a little example of that. So if I just jump into Stream. So Stream essentially is formulated by multiple channels. So just like in YouTube, where you can have your own kind of channels of content and videos which sit underneath that channel, that's how Stream works. So you can create all these kind of different channels. So let's say, for example, I've just got my demo training channel in here, and then I've got multiple kind of videos inside of here. So I can see all the different videos which live inside of my demo training channel. So if I go into, say, for example, my first aid video in here. So this is what it looks like. Again, it's very much kind of like YouTube, the kind of the look and feel of this. There's even a comments area, sharing buttons. You can sort of like it, like the video and things like that. And also what you can see here is I've also put an integration here for a Microsoft form. So we could have a sort of feedback form in here, or maybe it's a quiz or like a survey to kind of make sure that people understand. So it might be a couple of questions on first aid that we want to ask at the end or halfway through the video, and then collect that information so we know actually people understood that training as we were kind of going through. On the right hand side, we've got things like other videos from this channel and also other trending videos, so other videos which are being viewed quite a lot over Stream. Also, this video doesn't actually have any words overlaying it, but if it did, there'd be a full transcript log as well of kind of what's being kind of just, sort of talked about during that particular video. So that's Microsoft Stream. Bookings. So what is Bookings? Bookings help to simplify scheduling to save time. It enables the customization of appointment details, booking requirements, and allows you to streamline the booking experience for you and your customers. Now, Bookings essentially is like an external facing kind of portal, which allows your customers or even you can use it internally, but it's predominantly external for like customers, suppliers, contractors, and things like that to book time from a particular sort of pool of resource calendars. So what this allows you to do is integrate your Office 365 calendars, which avoids kind of like double bookings and things like that. It's an integration with Teams for online appointments, and it can create calendars. You can assign staff to certain appointments and things like that. And it gives a customer, a client, or external party a portal that allows them to log in and choose when they're wanting to book it. So an example here is actually, oops. So an example here is actually the like a pet grooming service, for example, where, say, for example, if I was to book a appointment slot, I can create as a as the person setting up this booking, as the company, the pet grooming company, I can set up different types of appointments, which might have different amount of allotments of time, as well as monetary values for them. And as you can see here, you can access it on a mobile phone or via the web browser. So then when I actually come through to this as a customer, I can select one of these different types of appointments, which will then automatically say, okay, well, this type of appointment requires 60 minutes. And then that will then show me a calendar of all the kind of appointments which are available on those dates. So I can see here the ones that have got the black text are available, whereas the grayed out ones like the 30th isn't available. And then when you select a date, you can then see the different time slots which are available. Now, the cool thing about this is it will only show you the time slots which are available inside the calendar. It won't ever show you, say, for example, like 7 o'clock isn't on there, and that might be because the booking's already taken up for 7 o'clock. So it's not going to show you any slots which are already booked. Customers can also, if you would like them to, you don't have to have this option, they could also choose a particular staff member. So this calendar is actually a collection of multiple people's calendars. So if they know that they want Joe Bloggs to be grooming their dog, they could select Joe Bloggs and they can actually see his calendar to see what appointment slots he's got. Now, Joe Bloggs can, like the employee, the actual groomer, can configure his calendar to say, okay, well, I only work between the hours of, say, 9 o'clock and 5 o'clock, and I always take an hour lunch between 12 and 1. So it will never offer an appointment slot between 12 and 1 or at, say, 8 a.m. because it doesn't start till 9 o'clock, for example. So once you've selected your kind of service and you've selected your date time, maybe you select an employee to see what their availability is. You can then select your slot, put in any kind of contact information that you need to, so email address, phone number, that sort of stuff, any details about the booking, and all of this, by the way, is configurable as well by the business. So you can have whatever fields and things like that you want in here, and then the customer can then submit that, which will then send a notification to you, and it will automatically book that out then inside of that particular person's calendar. So we use this internally. So as a kind of IT kind of support kind of company, we tend to find that we find a lot of our customers will ask us for kind of like support and things like that, which might require that we need to connect up to that particular customer's computer. Now, rather than us saying, okay, well, we need to connect to your computer, are you available tomorrow at 9 o'clock? And then they come back and say, oh, no, we're not available at 9 o'clock. And we go, okay, well, what about 1 o'clock? And they, oh, no, I can't do 1 o'clock. Rather than doing that backwards and forwards, which can end up wasting kind of time, what we can do instead is send a link directly to our bookings of our own calendar and say, okay, well, you book a time slot with me. We need a 60-minute time slot. Please use this link to book with us. So you can send them that to our customer. They can see what time slots we've got available. They can select the one which is suitable for them. It'll automatically put it into their calendar as a kind of meeting invite, and it'll also automatically put it into the calendar of the engineer as well. So that's bookings. So the next thing is Microsoft Lists. So lists make it easy to track all your information and organize your work. Lists are completely customizable and are useful when organizing events, keeping track of issues, managing new employee onboarding, and tracking assets. So anybody that's used SharePoint before will recognize lists. So lists is a product inside of Microsoft 365. Essentially, they're like mini online databases. And they have ready-made templates. You can create rules, reminders, and things like that. It integrates nicely with Microsoft Teams, so you can have a sort of task list for your team. You can set priorities and keep track of certain progress. And I'm just going to show you a quick demonstration of what that kind of looks like. So inside of lists, we can choose we want to create a brand new list, and we can either create a brand new one from blank. You can create one from an Excel spreadsheet. So if you've already got this created as an Excel spreadsheet, you can choose to create that directly from your Excel spreadsheet. Or you can use one of these templates. Let's say, for example, we want to use the kind of the travel request, for example. And then we're going to use the template. I'll say travel request. We can choose a color, pick this, and then click on create, and that will then automatically create our list for us. The list has then created it with all the kind of columns in here, and by clicking on new, we can see a form will then appear. Hopefully, if it's not froze. There we go. And this will then capture all of our kind of travel request information. So the request to the destination, start times, airlines, it's automatically created all these different columns for us. Now we can add in additional columns up in here and build this out just like it's kind of like an online kind of database. We can also integrate Power Automate directly from this. So this is something that we've previously done a webinar on about how you can kind of automate this and create your own kind of applications. But you can then have things like workflows, set reminder based on kind of dates that it's found in here, creating rules, or maybe it's you're looking at having an approval process based on that. That's essentially Microsoft List. It's an online kind of mini database. So the next thing is Planner. So Microsoft Planner allows the organization of teamwork alongside sort of intuitive, collaborative, and visual task management. So this is something which is available inside the browser via sort of the Planner product. You can also integrate it directly inside of a team tab, and you can get it as a mobile app as well. So with Planner, so I'm just going to jump into my Planner area in here. You can create a brand new plan. Now the plan might be for a set of projects. It might be for like an individual project. And then once you've created your plan is made up of multiple different columns, which Microsoft refer to as buckets. So buckets are essentially different sets of tasks. And now this can be anything you like. So you can, here I've got, for example, new events, in progress, and complete. And then you can create a task. And then choose to drag and drop that between the different buckets. Now, they don't have to just be based on status. They could be, let's say, for example, we're organizing an event. These might be tasks related to the entertainment, for example, like the music. These tasks might be related to like the catering or the kind of the food for that particular event. And then I can create a brand new task, which might be to say, find a band. I can set a due date to say we need to do it by the end of the month, and I'm going to assign this to Chris and click on add task. Then I can drag that across into the music column, and then when you open it up, you can see you can add more information inside of here. So I can actually add in multiple people as well. So I wanted to say I'm going to add in multiple people onto this task. I can add in labels. So maybe this is related to the kind of event setup. So I'm going to click event setup. But you can see by default, they're all just colors, and we can choose to edit these at any time as well. So I said this is post event, something like that. And then we can choose to tag these with different kind of colors to color coordinate these with labels. We can choose to move them between the different buckets, and we can set what the progress is. So we can say this is in progress or started, and what the priority is. So we can say this is an urgent task. And we're going to say we're going to start this today. This is urgent. We need to start this. You can add in any notes in here, and you can choose to make this note section a little bit bigger if you like to. Any subtasks that you can put in here, and you can choose to show those on the card as well. So you can choose to mark those tasks off as complete without having to open up full task. You can add any attachments, any PDFs or files, links, or any documents directly from SharePoint. And you can also add in any comments. We can say, where is this up to? And this will then produce a comments feed that will sit across here. Again, once we've kind of got a task, we can choose to move them between different columns. We can actually change the view of this board across the top. So at the moment, it's grouping by these buckets, but we could look at who it's assigned to. So different tasks are assigned to different people. The progress, where it's up to, whether it's started or complete. The due date, so where it's kind of up to in this kind of scale. And those kind of color-coded sub labels, or the priorities as well. So it's the urgent task, for example. And then once it's complete, we can click here to sort of mark that's complete, or untick it to unmark it's complete. We can view them as schedules, as charts as well. So we can see sort of burn downs, sort of tasks applied to different people. So we can make sure that the team is balanced. So for example, if say Martin had more tasks than everybody else, we might want to move those around and reassign them. And we can also see them via schedule as well. So we can see here, this find a band task we're starting today, and it has to be done by Friday. So you can see it as a kind of calendar view as well. So that is Planner. The last thing is SharePoint. So what is SharePoint? So SharePoint is essentially an online kind of platform which allows you to create customizable kind of content. You can use it for kind of projects, departments, and break it out by division. It's like an internal intranet, essentially, an internal website. This enables kind of like for files, data, news, and different kinds of resources, useful links and things like that to be shared throughout your organization. So I'll just jump into a quick example of what a typical kind of modern intranet looks like. So this is a typical kind of modern intranet, where you've got things like useful links, news articles, world clocks, timers, things like that, Twitter feeds and events being pulled through to a homepage. Now, one thing that not a lot of people are aware of is that inside of a modern intranet, inside of SharePoint Online, you can also have like drop downs, like mega menus, where you can have multiple stage sort of tiers, like apps being one, employee details being two, and pre-onboarding there being a link. And this makes it much easier for people to find things. You've probably heard this concept before, that people don't want to click more than 3 times to be able to find something. And in this way, you can jump directly into the content directly in there. Other things that you might not necessarily know inside of SharePoint is that you can also create from your news feed newsletters. So if you click on the See All button, you'll see across the top you've got an email news digest. Now, this might be that we want to create a kind of a newsletter of all the kind of different kind of interesting news articles that we've created recently inside of our intranet. So I'm just going to refresh this. I think it's frozen. So email news digest, and then we say, okay, well, what do we want in our news digest? We want this article, this one, and maybe this one. Then we click through to next, and then we're going to give it a title. So this might be our summer newsletter. Who we want to send this to. So this could be a distribution list or individual people. And I'll say this is some text. And then I can choose to see what this will look like as a sort of an email that's going to go out. And then when I click on Send News Digest, it's automatically going to send an email to those people with a template. Now, in a true Blue Peter fashion, here's one that I made earlier. And this is what the templated email will look like when it comes through. It'll come through from me. It will show the kind of the text that I've put inside of here, the title, as well as the articles that I've chosen to include inside my newsletter. And I can click on the Go to Site button, which will automatically then take me through into my SharePoint site. Other things as well inside of our kind of modern intranet. So we've got things like stream integration. So you might want to do things like creating a training portal inside of SharePoint. And within here, we can have obviously like useful links and things like that, events, but also we can embed those videos that we're looking at in our stream channels. Say, for example, if we wanted to show a training video of the month or overall kind of videos for our training channel, and we can build that all directly inside of our portal. We can also integrate some of those other products that we were looking at earlier on. So inside of SharePoint, we can create pages where we can have like YouTube videos and things like that, but also we can embed like the Microsoft Forms that we were looking at earlier on. So if we wanted to quiz people, let's say, for example, this page was a policy page and it had a bit of text, a bit of a video about our policy on equal opportunities, and we also wanted to quiz people on their understanding of our policy, we can embed the Microsoft Form directly into our SharePoint page as well. Just going back then into here. So that's essentially our kind of, sort of SharePoint side of things. We're also running a little bit behind now on time, so I'm just going to skip over the web part bits. If anyone got any questions about the web parts integration, please feel free to ask at the end. And the final thing I just want to talk about with the SharePoint is that you can also have a tab inside of Microsoft Teams. Now, not many people are doing this yet, but it's a really good way of branching out when people are using Microsoft Teams to integrate your SharePoint intranet directly into Teams. So they don't have to leave the Teams interface. You can just have a tab on the left-hand side of Teams, which is automatically going to open up your SharePoint intranet. And you can see here we've got like sliders, latest kind of news and documents and things like that, all without having to leave the interface of Microsoft Teams. So conscious I'm just a little bit behind time on here, but there's some useful links. If you're interested in this or would like any more information, please feel free to let me know and we can send you out a copy of these slides. But there's a really useful link here which explains more kind of information about Microsoft 365, the additional apps and services that we've talked about today. You can get more information on them, individual kind of videos and things like that. Also, there's a link there to our Eventbrite, so all of our kind of upcoming kind of webinars and things like that. As I say, look out for our Microsoft Forms webinar. Also our Valto YouTube channel. So this video is going to be uploaded into our YouTube channel, and there's a lot of other kind of really useful kind of content and videos, helpful user guides and things like that. Some of the services that we offer. So if you are interested in talking to us about this, please do reach out. We can deliver remote workshops on today's topics, including Microsoft 365 Enlightenment, so make sure that your organization is making the most out of these topics we've been talking about today. But also we can talk to you about things like SharePoint migrations, as well as creating a Power Platform strategy or building your first kind of Power App. And we also provide training on all of the topics that we've talked about today, SharePoint, Teams and Power Platform. And if you're interested in that, please feel free to reach out to us by emailing hello@valto.co.uk. We also offer support as well. So we have what we refer to as support tokens, which is essentially how we can help support you with some of these different products. So one token is essentially 1 hour of our time, and you can call them off in half-an-hour increments. This just means if you've got any questions or you need help getting started with Microsoft 365, you can reach out to us on an ad hoc basis to support you with that. So I'm just going to jump over now to some Q&As. So if you do have any questions, we do have a Q&A board inside of our chat in here. So I'm just going to jump into the Q&A section. Okay, so we've got a couple of different questions in here. So question here: Will we receive package presentation in some? Will we receive a package of presentation in some formats? Yeah, if you want to reach out and email us, I'm happy to send you over that particular PowerPoint presentation. Another question there from Deborah: Can you send video and slides out after? Yeah, sure. Well, if there's multiple people that are interested in getting this, we'll definitely be sending out the video, but we can also attach the PowerPoint presentation to that as well for you. A lot of people are just requesting that we send out this. So what we're going to be doing, sending out this recording as well to you. So you'll be able to access this. It's going to be uploaded into YouTube. If an employee creates a form, planner, list, ECC, and leaves the company, do the items they created or shared with others get deleted since they created it? Really good question there. No, they won't get deleted. So if they leave the organization, the only kind of threat is basically if you remove their license, there's certain things which will disappear. So things like their Outlook will disappear, the files that they've got inside of their OneDrive and things like that will disappear. But anything that they've created in a shared space, such as a list or a planner, those things will stay there. So a couple of other questions there, but unfortunately we have run out of time. We've overrun there. If you've got any questions, please feel free to drop us an email. My email is actually dougie, dougie @valto.co.uk. So if you do have any other questions related to this content, please feel free to reach out to me. Okay, thank you very much for your time.